Good morning and happy Monday, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining. Welcome David, Keisha, Mason, Alex, Mac, Jamie, AJ, Gabriel, and the other Alex to the stream. So far this morning, we have the market popping up a little bit. Let's say we take a look at the SPY. We're seeing a pretty strong rebound. There's no major catalysts off of this move. However, keep in mind, we are coming off 5 straight days of losses on the S&P, which is definitely something important.
Yeah, that's huge news, actually. And the recovery is pretty good this morning, especially considering the amount of down or the amount of red that we saw on Friday. Like Friday, the SPY fell below 448 and continued all the way down towards 445.50 at close. This morning, we might open up here around 449. That's a pretty big recovery, but 449 looks like it might be a pretty big resistance for later on today. So really watch out for that with the SPY. We might hit this resistance and then go back down. No idea yet, but this week is definitely going to be fun. We have a lot of catalysts coming up. I know tomorrow we have that CPI inflation data, as well as the Apple event tomorrow, where they're going to be announcing the new iPhone 13 and maybe some changes to the Apple Watch. So seems like we have a lot in store for us this week. And maybe Apple, it looks like Apple's kind of recovering up in pre-market today as well, kind of like the S&P 500.
Good stuff. And then we have Vicky joining. Welcome to the stream, Vicky. Alex said good morning. Thank you so much for the shout out yesterday. Let's go stocked up family. Absolutely, Alex. Huge shout out to you. Thanks for being a huge supporter of the channel. But Tom, let's take another look at the SPY real quick. I don't know about you, but personally, I don't think this overall downtrend is over. Of course, the market goes up a lot more than it goes down, but looking at a lot of things and analyzing past pullbacks in the market, there's actually a lot of green days that were sprinkled in the when the COVID disaster hit, in February and March of 2020. That was one of the quickest falls the market has ever had. And there were actually quite a lot of green days, believe it or not.
Yeah, there was. You can see I'm kind of pointing them out right here. There was actually a pretty big rise back then from 286 all the way back up to 315, which is a pretty big rise if you ask me. And yeah, I mean, you're right. There is a few green days sprinkled in here and there. And I'm with you. I could kind of still see the SPY going down later this week, especially with that CPI data coming out tomorrow. Every time the CPI data comes out, it's been kind of making the market go a little bit shaky just because of, everyone's been saying inflation's transitory, but we've been seeing with the data that the inflation just seems to be getting worse and worse. So we'll have to see what the CPI data looks like. But if the data ends up being pretty bad and it shows inflation kind of getting out of control or just getting higher in general, I think that we might see the market come back down. And, we might just hold our ground today and maybe just go flat with the SPY, and then maybe tomorrow on this big news, it might send us down.
We shall see. And Tom, CCJ is still going. It's up almost 7% today. This thing just keeps on going and going and going. It's very overbought, and I know we're still holding those calls, but what a move.
Yeah, these uranium stocks are insane all the way up. I cannot believe they gapped up through $25 again. Opened this pre-market up around 26, and man, today it opened. This just looks great. Their daily chart looks awesome, Mike. Like CCJ, ever since they broke that all-time high at 22, has just had an explosive move to the upside. And man, I don't know what's been going on with these uranium stocks, but they are flying. CCJ looks really strong. UUUU, which is another uranium stock, looks like they might get pushed up to all-time highs pretty soon as well. But man, CCJ is just on fire. All-time highs are nonstop. And like I said, it's a uranium stock, and I don't know what's going on pushing uranium this high, but hey, I like it, and it looks like pretty good for us, Mike. Great pickup with those calls.
Absolutely. So looking at my watch list right now, it looks like we have very mixed movement so far. About half of the stocks on my watch list are green, half are red. Some of the stocks that are leading today for me is Nvidia and Microsoft. So if we take a look at both of them, Nvidia is up 2%, and they're still very close to that all-time high.
Yeah, they are. They're actually getting themselves right back up there. Nvidia is right back up to that 230 resistance level up there. So maybe watch for that. We might hit 230 and go back down, or we might break out above 230. But you're right. Nvidia's had a great recovery back, and looks like we might hit new all-time highs again with Nvidia. I mean, we say this every week, I feel like, with them, but they just continue to go to the upside, and it's looking pretty good. And I'm also seeing like Intel. It looks like CHPT, Qualcomm, MU. Look, I think that the chip makers are having a pretty good week. Let's check out AMD. Wow, but AMD is not. They are actually falling below that 105 support, falling out. Maybe they'll be going down to that $100 resistance again.
Good stuff. So welcome Mike to the stream. And guys, let us know what stocks you're watching, what stocks you're holding. Just let us know what you're watching. We can definitely take a look at them. AMC's moving, Tom. There we go.
Yeah, AMC is on fire. They actually had a great move off that $50 support this morning up through the highs of Friday. And they are breaking out very nicely, actually. Looks pretty good. Look at AMC on the daily. I know I talked about this in one of our daily videos, Mike, but man, it almost looks like a bullish flag set up here. We finally got the breakout above 50, and I don't know how much further we can run here. I mean, I would definitely target somewhere around $55. I think it could come pretty safely, but man, AMC is really starting to break out of this type of flag, and I would really hope that we continue this momentum to the upside.
Good stuff. Love to see that. And then we have Spacely coming in saying AMC came out running like the ultimate warrior. Yeah, I mean, it's looking pretty good, Spacely. It's a good way to start the week. Another thing to keep in mind is, when we look at some of these stocks like AMC, in the past, they normally run up when the market tanks. So, and another thing too is, like, let's say hedge funds or whoever, some giant institution is holding a bunch of short shares on AMC, or short call options on AMC or whatever, any bearish position, and if it starts to run up, there are people who say that that can cause other selling pressure to happen in the market, because if they have to cut losses or hedge themselves or whatever, they might have to finance that through selling other shares. So it's just an idea. Now, of course, there's a ton of talk with AMC, but it's a great way to start the week.
Yeah, it is. And that breakout looks pretty good. The technicals are looking pretty decent. And, usually the technicals with AMC are all over the place. But ever since we bounced off that $30 support, it's had pretty good moves to the upside. And, hey, I'm glad to see it. And I'm kind of curious on how some of these other ones like GME are moving today. Looks like GME's trying to pop up. They're up 2.8%. What about BBIG? I know they were pretty big last week. And, man, it looks like BBIG is actually kind of turning off to the downside. Clover Health is kind of going red again too. So it looks like AMC is really leading the way out of these hype stocks.
Good stuff. Then we have Alex saying, can you look at AMC and SNOW for calls? Absolutely. So AMC, they are above $50 right now. They're lingering right around 51. They're up like 3% on the day. Now, I'm just not one to really play AMC calls when the implied volatility is 160%. So generally speaking, I would say it's not the best setup, but that's mainly because of the options pricing. Like the direction, it's definitely moving pretty strong right now, but it's hard to buy an option when the implied volatility is that expensive, and it's hard to profit when it's like that. So it's not like horrible if you really, really wanted to play it, but just make sure that you had some time and get as close to the money as possible.
Yeah, and I think it could maybe end up being a pretty good play for the next few days, but just keep in mind that AMC's also had a lot of green candles lately. Like we're starting to break out of this flag, and we had two pretty good moves out of it. So don't be surprised if we have a little bit of consolidation or something like that. With AMC, like Mike said, with that implied volatility being so high, you have to time it pretty well. So like if you would buy, like for example, if you would have bought some AMC calls as it broke out today at like 52.30 or something like that, you'd probably be down pretty significantly now that we're down to 51.50 now, just a few minutes later. So that's where it can really hurt you. But if you time it right and maybe buy it off like the 51 support or off of $50 or something, I think that could be a better way to go. But like Mike said, it's going to be super risky.
Alrighty, there we go. And then also SNOW, Alex was looking at that one potentially for calls. So let's take a look. It looks pretty good. It's in like a nice slow and steady uptrend. Another thing is the implied volatility is not too bad on this one, but the options are relatively expensive. So, an at-the-money call with, let's say, 30 days left, that'll cost around like $1,700. So, just keep in mind that you always want to get quality options no matter what. So, I think it looks good, but honestly, I think the ideal way to go with this one would probably be like a call debit spread.
Yeah, I think that would be the smarter way to go too, because Snowflake has just recovered up so much like the past few weeks. Like Mike said, it's been slow and steady ever since $200, and now we're at 321. So it's just been a nice uptrend, and we're getting really close to some of these previous resistance levels, like around 325 from the past. So I could see that, Mike. I think that's a smarter way to go as well. And just looking at it, be really careful with Snowflake. We're definitely right at that resistance. So I could definitely see it maybe consolidating or doing a little bit of downwards movement before we finally break this.
All right, and then we have Stefan saying, how's SKLZ looking to you guys? So let's take a look. SKLZ, it's pretty risky. It's not my favorite setup in the world, but, if you want to get into like the hype stock movement or all that stuff, it's not horrible considering it's at lows. I think it would definitely take some time before it pops, but it's just like a really risky play. But hey, if you're getting in close to $10, I mean, it's better to buy it now rather than when it, pops up from 10 to 12 or 10 to 14 or whatever.
Yeah, really true, Mike. That's a good way to say it. And the thing is right at support. So hey, it's not a bad time if you like it, like he said, but it still will be risky. SKLZ is always going to be a little bit of a risky stock, but that's just how these lower price stocks are.
Alrighty. I'm just doing a quick scan right now. AbbVie's up like 2%, Tom. This is a pretty good dividend stock. They've just taken a beating over like the past couple weeks or so. I like them for the long term, and I'll probably sell some puts on them.
Yeah, me too. Hey, I actually was thinking they were pretty overextended whenever they were at like 120 and they were getting up towards those all-time highs. Like when you look at the max weekly, they were getting really close to that resistance, and I'm glad it moved down off of there, and it really is going to, I think, make some good opportunities, like you said, to sell some puts, maybe grab some shares. But this looks pretty good off support, and hey, I think we could get a pretty good recovery out of AbbVie over the next few days, and I'll say it looks like a pretty good stock, even like for the short term, like I said. I do see resistance around 110, which we're heading up towards, but other than that, I think it looks pretty good.
All right, and then did you see NEO today? They're kind of tanking off.
No, I didn't, but wow, that looks pretty bad, Mike, right below that $38 support. And man, I'm scared to even go look at Tesla's chart now. I bet it's the same thing. Yeah, Tesla's red again. And man, every time we hit these trend lines with Tesla, it goes right back down. That's terrible movement. Anytime NIO falls below the $40 support, we just see more selling pressure too. And man, I'm getting scared with NIO. I feel like if Tesla keeps going down, NIO might eventually break 35 and then maybe get back down towards that 30 support. I really hope that that's not the case, but it really seems like that might happen. And then getting back to Tesla, I mean, how many times are we going to touch this blue trend line and go down? I mean, it's happened every single time we've touched it. I'm really hoping Tesla can hold up on 700 on the way down here. If we can't hold 700 and we end up breaking that, I'm going to be pretty worried about Tesla and some of these EV stocks in the short term. And I'll tell you what, if we get back below 700, I would think Burry might still be holding his shorts.
True. I forgot about that. Yeah, definitely good point there. Then we have Sean saying oil's popping off. No place I like though. So crude oil is definitely popping off. It's trending very well. Let's say we take a look at Exxon. Exxon doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's not my favorite setup in the world, but yeah, good observation with oil. And if we continue to see this movement, that could definitely bring some solid opportunities, like with some of these oil stocks.
Yeah, and if you look at it, like the good ones like Chevron have been pulling back a little bit lately. So they've been coming down a little bit and they're kind of around support. So it could be a good time sometime soon. Personally, I don't know what to think about oil. I would think oil prices would eventually come back down a little bit, but it seems like right now they're continuing to fly up. And, I don't think any of this Afghanistan news is helping the prices go down either.
Yep, for sure. AMD's also tanking off a little bit. If we take a look at that, they just broke below the 105 support. The next major support is 100, and that one's just been slowly kind of selling off, and it's looking pretty rough.
Man, really rough. And I'll tell you another stock that looks rough, which is in the same sector. Nvidia really turned it around today, Mike. They were running up to that 230 resistance. Looks like we got a huge rejection and just straight back to the downside now with Nvidia. I mean, we're almost down to the lows of Friday now at this point. I mean, that was a huge turnaround. And you're right, AMD looks terrible. I mean, below that 105 support. And I see a huge resistance coming up on AMD around $100, where we posted up for yeah, we actually hit AMD right at 100 about 3 other times in the past, and I think we could definitely hit that again and maybe bounce up. But this is definitely not a good not a good daily chart on AMD by any means. Huge lower highs here at like 115, and then now we're finally breaking that 105 resistance to the downside. That's just a terrible thing to see.
For sure. All right, and then we have Iranical saying, which one is better? Averaging down on a stock I already have or buying other stocks at a lower price? So there are a ton of variables with that question. It depends, what stock you have, how badly you want to diversify. There's so many variables to that question. However, generally speaking, I would say it's good to have, a couple different stocks to diversify yourself at least a little bit. But at the same time, like if like the stock you're already holding, if you have a very strong conviction with that stock, and if you really really like that stock, then if you like it, then it doesn't hurt to buy more at a lower price. But keep in mind, there are so many variables to that question.
Yeah, definitely. If you're trading something like Apple and you have an average price of 150, it's going to be totally different than if you have a stock like CHPT with an average price of $22 or 25. So there's definitely a lot of different ways that can go. But I would say just stick to what Mike said, and generally you would say the larger cap stocks are better to hold for the long term than the lower cap stocks. So that's a little bit of a way you could go. And another good way is a lot of people like to look at dividend aristocrats for long-term holds too, just because they keep upping their dividends, and generally they're pretty good. But generally just stick to what Mike said. Lots of different variables. But man, Mike, we have these EV charging stocks like CHPT, BLNK, and others still going down this week after a terrible end of the week last week. Do you think that these guys are ever going to stop on support and maybe go back up, or do you think we'll just keep continuing down in the short term?
I mean, it's looking really tough, Tom. I've been watching these ones for the past couple weeks now, or actually probably even the past couple months, and they keep just trying to bounce off support, but they just get rejected. So to be honest with you, I'm not really expecting a pop anytime soon, but if this sell-off does continue, I'll definitely be there to buy the dip, sell some puts on it, and once it has its full momentum back, it'll be pretty good. But for the short term, in my opinion, it's still looking pretty rough.
Yeah, and I feel like these stocks could do pretty good in the future. I don't know why, what's pushing these stocks down so much right now, but I do know that these stocks were going up whenever that infrastructure bill was being talked about a lot in the past. And I know Pelosi put a time restraint on that bill, with the last day being October 1st. So that's pretty good. So over the next few weeks, maybe if we hear more news about the infrastructure bill or something, it might send these stocks back up, because apparently these EV charging stocks are going to get some type of funding in this bill. So that's always good for these types of stocks, and hopefully they bounce off support. That might be a pretty good move. But I'm with you. It's so bloody, and it's been so bad the past 2 weeks that you would have to think it just might continue down.
Alrighty, and then we have Spacely saying, I had it in my notes to put in the 105 strike puts on AMD, but I never put them in. FML. Hey, I mean, there's always going to be more opportunities, and, the market's always changing. So, hey, maybe it's a good thing, but either way, there will always be more plays. Then we have Stefan asking about the SPY. Let's take a look at that. We are slightly in the green, and Tom, I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of surprised with the movement we saw this morning. To see that type of pre-market action, just to I don't want to say get demolished, because we're technically still green, but that's a pretty hard sell-off right at open.
Yeah, it is a bad sell-off. And, the thing is that we did get right up to that 448, I should say that 449 resistance that we've hit off of a few times over the past few days. And, we ended up going right down off of there. And I don't know, if it's just every stock starting to turn over or what, but, we have been seeing intraday, a lot of stocks starting to turn over. Apple was initially at open starting to fly up, and, maybe looking like we might have a nice recovery day today. But like you said, they just really turned around, tanked right back off to the downside. Same story with Microsoft, a great morning. And then I don't know what happened, but the sellers really just came in and drove these stocks down. And, the worst one to me was Nvidia. I know we were looking at them and man, they got demolished today. I mean, they were all the way up to 230. Now we're almost back down to 220. I mean, these are some pretty big pullbacks out of these stocks. And I mean, it's just getting a little bit crazy. Even the bank stocks, I mean, it actually looks like the banks are kind of going back up, but at open, they had the same volatile moves too.
Alrighty, let's take a look. We have Spacely saying, hit that like button, guys. Yeah, if you guys like the stream, it would really help us out if you could hit that like button. We would greatly appreciate it. And let's take another look. Tom, I'm not sure if you saw this yet, but like we said in the beginning of the stream, Nvidia was one of the leading stocks at market open, and it completely reversed. It was like up like 2%. Now it's down almost 1%.
Yeah, that's terrible. I mean, anytime you see a reversal like that, generally that would mean more stocks. Well, unless there's just really bad news with one general stock. But whenever we see this across the board with Nvidia turning this red, AMD really breaking support and going down, generally we see the market start to fall. And we can see the SPY looks like it's really trying to go down right here. I see a little bit of support, I should say, around 447. And we might break that later on today. But who knows? I mean, it's really hard to say if the SPY is going to just keep going down for the rest of the day today or not. But I mean, I would think it can. Like we talked about a lot earlier on, a lot of stocks are red today. We've got NIO red. We got Tesla even going red. And I mean, it's not like Tesla is just red consolidating at their lows of Friday. I mean, man, they're going down pretty drastically, down to $720. And these sell-offs are not good. Like, these are pretty big stocks too. Like, it's not like Nvidia, Tesla, Target, it's not like these stocks are small stocks. So they're definitely market makers. And I even see Netflix red, BABA and the Chinese stocks are red again. I mean, man, it's just like so much reds coming into the market that I would think that sell-off should start to maybe accelerate as we start to go on later today, or maybe especially into tomorrow. But with that CPI data coming out, I would think it could get, if that data is pretty bad, I would think the market could get pretty choppy tomorrow. And I would think for today, I don't know, Mike, for me personally, I don't think that we'll break 445 on the SPY, or I don't think we'll break below the low of Friday today, but I think that there's definitely chance for it to do that tomorrow.
Yeah, I can see it for sure. And, the market, there's a saying, the market takes the stairs up and the elevator down. And, we definitely saw it take the elevator down on Friday, close to end of day. And, the market's getting pretty volatile right now, which is a good thing and a bad thing. And then we have Maine saying, good morning. Did you guys talk about ATER? No, we did not, but we'll take a look. So ATER is up like 43% today, Tom. Volume and implied volatility is through the roof. It's popping up. It's just looking great right now. Tons of momentum. Definitely a risky play. I'm looking at the news right now. To be honest, I haven't been following this one too much, but there's a ton of momentum.
Yeah, there's a ton. And man, I don't know what's making this one fly, but ever since it hit $3, it's just been pretty much straight up for this stock. And I'm glad to see it running. It's up another 40% today. Never heard of them, though. I didn't even hear of them last week as they were going up, but I wish I would have, because this setup looked pretty good. And man, I mean, I just can't believe the momentum that this stock had. I mean, be really careful with it intraday, because it looks like it might start to pull back now. But I mean, I would say like maybe watch it for open tomorrow or more movement later on today after the pullback, because it's definitely volatile. And I don't know what they do, but I mean, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah, I've actually never heard of them, besides, I heard a little bit of talk about them last week with some of the hype, but yeah, they're booming up big time. We have Vicky saying Apple is not red, Amazon and Microsoft green. So let's take a look. Yeah, Apple's in the green by 1%. They're red when you look at the opening to current price, but yeah, they're definitely green on the day, like 1%. They're holding about that $150 level. And then we have Keisha saying SHW is my only stock option that is green. Let's take a look. SHW. Give me 1 second. SHW. Yeah, that one's up like 1% or so. Not looking bad. It's holding above that 300 support, and looks like a nice slow and steady stock.
Yeah, it really does. And it's been recovering up nicely ever since 292. which is a good thing to say. And, Sherman Williams should be pretty good for the long term. And I know that they've been doing really good with the housing boom over the past few years. And they recently had a pretty good split early on this year too, which made them, lower in price, which is great. And I know that this company is really renowned as being a great dividend stock and just a really good, like longer term hold. In the short term, it might not move up and down too quickly, but for the long term, this stock's generally a pretty safe hold. And year over year, like I said, it's pretty safe. It almost is like it's like one of those dividend aristocrats, which has been around for a long time, and their dividend generally doesn't go down too much.
All right. And then we have Brian saying, good morning. What would be a good buy-in for Clove? So keep in mind, it is risky, but I would say $8 is a pretty good level.
Yeah, I would say so too. There's a big support around 8. We did get down to 750, but I think 8's a really good time to buy with Clover if you like it for the long term. Now, Clover can be pretty volatile, and some people say that it's not good for the long term. Some people think it is. So look at the fundamentals behind them. And if you like the stock, then $8 is definitely a good time to get it. And I would really recommend shorting some $8 puts or something, because Clover's implied volatility is pretty high and you can take advantage of those premiums pretty well.
Yep. And then we have Vicky saying, Boeing levels, please. So, Tom, what levels do you have on Boeing?
Man, Boeing's still continuing to look like it might fall out of its range here, but this 210 support seems like it's holding up pretty well with Boeing. We bounced off of it twice, and Boeing is getting some more green momentum back to the upside today, which is awesome to see for Boeing. And, they recently fell out of one of those longer term trend lines on my daily chart. And I was thinking Boeing might go to the downside. If we break 210, I'm going to get really worried about Boeing. But as long as we hold 210 and we keep double bottoming here, I think we could get more great movement to the upside. And you can see intraday today, Boeing's actually one of the few stocks that are really pointing to the upside. And it looks like a pretty decent little recovery here off that 210 support.
Good stuff. And then we have, let's see, Jorge asking about T. So AT&T, they've been getting smacked for the past couple weeks, but they're looking really good today. They're up like 2%, which is a pretty big move for T. They are just under that $28 resistance level, but hey, they have good momentum.
Yeah, it's a lot of momentum, and this stock generally moves slow, and then it likes to just get these random huge moves to the upside or gaps to the upside, like out of nowhere. So really watch out over the next few months or something. If some big news or something comes out with 5G, or maybe they'll announce that like the iPhones are going to come out on AT&T first, or who knows, but there could definitely be some crazy news that affects AT&T. And you can see in the past, whenever they start to get on the uptrend, they generally like to rise up pretty quickly. So hopefully this bounce off like the 27 support can make them go up pretty well.
All right. And then we have Nye saying, hey, Mike, you said short puts for AbbVie. How far do you think this will fall for the day? So I know there was a lot of confusion with short put options this morning, but when anyone says a short put option, a cash secured put, or CSP, that does not mean they want the stock to fall. For example, right now, ABBV is at $108.50. Let's say someone says to short the 90 strike put option for AbbVie, right? That means that they think that AbbVie will be above $90. So a short put option makes money if the stock rises, if the stock does nothing, or if the stock falls just a little bit, depending on where the strike price is. But generally speaking, when someone does a short put option, they actually think the stock will rise. So to answer your question, I'm more bullish / neutral. It's more of like a kind of like a win-win. If you like the stock for the long term, like I do, and if it's at like a lower level, you can short a put option. If the stock rises, you make money. If the stock does nothing, you make money. If the stock falls a little bit, you make money. And in the worst case scenario, if the stock falls a lot, then you buy at a low price.
Yeah, and that's the good thing. Like the example you just gave with the 90 strike on AbbVie, if AbbVie keeps going down here all the way below $90, then you have to pick up shares of AbbVie at 90, which to me, that's awesome because AbbVie right now is at 108. And if I wanted to grab shares, like let's just say I wanted 100 shares, I'm gonna have to pay around 10 grand up here to get those 100 shares. But down here, I only have to pay 9 grand to get those 100 shares. And I'll also get paid to get those shares down here by selling that put. So I think it's a really good strategy. And I know it always confuses a lot of people, and it's really upsetting because it's such a good strategy and people keep, like longing the puts and stuff because it's very confusing. But just keep in mind that shorting puts is totally different than longing puts. And I would really recommend looking up videos and stuff about it before you just get in. And one other thing that scares people a lot when they short puts, Mike, that I've noticed is that if they short the put, like let's say they shorted the 90 put and then now AbbVie starts going down, they're going to start losing money on that put, like in the shorter term as that, as those premiums rise. And the thing is that a lot of people don't realize is that you just have to get the shares at 90. You don't have to pay the money that put's going up in value on, so that's where a lot of people also get confused. It might show that, you owe like $2,000 or something if it falls all the way below 90, but in reality, you just have to get the shares at $90. You don't have to pay, that $2,000 premium or whatever it ends up being.
Exactly, for sure. I mean, it's totally an amazing strategy, and honestly, it's probably my favorite. So yeah, I definitely recommend looking into cash secured puts. And then we have Stefan saying, any day trades you guys are looking at specifically? So Tom and I both posted day trades this morning in the Discord chat. Besides that, there's no like major things I'm seeing this second. CCJ's looking really good, but the IV's getting pretty high on that one, and we're already holding calls. We've been holding them for like a little over a week now, so it's definitely not my favorite for a day trade. I'm just doing a quick little look right now. There's nothing like really catching my eye this second.
Yeah, as far as day trades at this very moment, it's hard to say because a lot of stocks are starting to really turn back over. Like if we go look at Apple, Apple, they're green because of where they closed Friday, but they're red as far as the movement today. So you can see like ever since we had this big run, ever since market open, we had a nice move up. Now Apple's kind of turning itself back over to the downside right now. And we might just see continued movement down. But, a lot of these big stocks like Apple are around their low of day right now. For example, Apple hit 149.72 earlier, and we're getting really close to there. So if these stocks like Apple start to bounce back up and move back to the upside, it can make day trading today pretty hard because, you're going to see the S&P 500 starting to go all over the place. It's just going to get really choppy. If we start to see later on today more straight movement to the downside, I think it'll make for some.
You there, Tom? I think you cut out. Let's see. Tom, let me know if you could hear me. It looks like you cut out. Tom, you there? Sorry about this interruption, guys. Tom's internet's a little shaky. Let's see. Let me know if you guys could hear Tom. I cannot hear him. So let me know in the comments real quick. I'm talking to Tom right now. Let's see.
Great day trades, especially out of the. Yo, are you there?
Yes. All right. Feel free to share your screen again real quick.
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, I didn't get anything saying connection problems or anything that time, but it definitely ended the Zoom call on us. But yeah, we can see the SPY is moving back down. And I was just pretty much saying that the SPY is going to get really choppy today. And I would think that there could be a lot of day trading opportunities if we see the SPY continue to move below its daily lows, kind of like what we're seeing right now. So I think there could be a lot of opportunities coming right now since the SPY is breaking its lows. But I think we're going to see a lot of stocks start to break down today, especially like Apple, Microsoft, and others. And we're already seeing that right now as Apple's already heading towards its lows of Friday.
Good stuff. And then did you see Netflix? This thing is getting destroyed. It had such an amazing month, but, it's getting smacked right now. They fell really hard below that $600 support.
Yeah, NFLX really fell below that. And they're also down below that 1,000 SMA on the 5-minute chart. That's generally not good to see, but you're right. Ever since they fell below that $600 level this morning, it was straight movement to the downside, and that's terrible to see. And, Netflix is a pretty big stock. Lots of people like it, and they're kind of like they're in the NASDAQ, and they're more of like in that tech sector too. So I don't know, just really bad sell-offs today out of these bigger stocks. But, we were seeing great moves earlier, though, out of stocks like AMC. So on one hand, we're seeing some of these hype stocks flying up, but On the other hand, we're seeing the more like the blue chip safer stocks like Apple, Nvidia, and others starting to fall off.
For sure. Alrighty, and then we have AJ asking about Apple. So it's just not really doing anything right now. Honestly, I don't like it for like I don't really like it for like a short-term swing. It's just at a point right now where it's not looking too great to the upside or the downside. So just neutral. And then we have Alex saying, Mike taught me to look at big money options activities. I showed Mike about the September 17th 720 put, and now it is there. Mike's awesome. Well, thank you so much for that, Alex. Analyzing order flow is a great thing, and it can tell you a lot about the stock because, smart money knows a lot more than probably all of us combined. So that's good to see. Then we have the other Alex saying, what do you think of QQQ put swing? What do you think of QQQ put for a swing play this week? So I like it, especially if you have exposure to tech stocks. I do like the play. Just as always, make sure to have a quality option. You don't want to let's say for this week, we have the September 17th expiration. You don't want to be, buying the 350 strike put. It's always good to get as close to the money as possible.
Yeah, it really is. And that's going to be the best way to go because you're going to make more on the premiums. Now, the way it can be, kind of bad, Mike, he's talking about shorting the puts, right?
No, he was just saying QQQ puts for a swing, so long.
Oh,
puts.
I see. So yeah, I see. I would definitely get closer to the money then for sure if you're going to be doing it that way. I thought you were talking about shorting the puts, but yeah, and QQQ is really breaking its low of day. And I think that there could be some great opportunities in that sector. And with that play that you just talked about, I mean, lots of good movement here. We're moving below that 376 support. And man, I could just really see a sell-off over the next few days. And, I hate to sit here and just continue to say, I think that I'm going to see Apple, Microsoft, and all these big stocks go down. But you know what? If we look at some of these other stocks like CHPT, these stocks are at their lows. I would think some investors might come in and maybe buy these ones up pretty soon. But, I would think that with Apple and Microsoft and some others, man, as we're at all-time highs, I would think the investors would start to de-risk themselves. And especially with everything that we've been seeing with the inflation lately and with Afghanistan and just with every market factor going on right now and with them being at all-time highs, I just don't see how people aren't or how they couldn't de-risk themselves. And I think that right now, with the downward movement that we've been seeing the past few days, I think we're starting to really see the start of a bigger sell-off here in the overall market rather than just individual stocks like Apple, Microsoft. I think it'll be more of a market-wide sell-off more than just, some of these bigger tech stocks.
Yeah, I agree with you for sure. And, I know you mentioned de-risking, and I think we're already seeing a little bit of that. You look at Apple, Microsoft, even before the negative Apple news, they were selling off a little bit. We look at the SPY. It had such a great open this morning, and, now we're basically flat. The market's coming right back down, and, you could even say 2 weeks ago, the market would just boom up every chance it gets. And I know we're still very early, Tom. The market has been open for less than an hour so far today. So I know we're looking at very short-term time frames. But, to me, it just looks like the momentum has definitely shifted.
Yeah, it really has. And, I'm seeing lots of bad moves below support, below SMAs, below just below different key technical levels. We can see with the SPY, once we got below 448, or you could say the 449 resistance that we touched this morning, that was just a terrible move, and then we're seeing that across the board. With Apple, for example, we're starting to fall below that big 152 support that was there. And it's just across the whole board. We're just seeing stocks starting to fall off, break certain technical levels. And generally that starts to accelerate the sell-off. And, that could be a big scenario coming up the next couple of weeks, especially tomorrow with that CPI data. That's going to be, I think, really key. Everybody keeps talking about inflation and, how inflation's transitory and it's not going to be around for a long time. But, we're already about 3 months into these talks, and it just seems like it's not really going anywhere anytime soon. So we'll have to see how the movement ends up going. But look at the VIX today. The VIX is really holding its ground at $26. The VXX itself is red on the day, negative 1.5%, but their movement since open has been pretty good. And if we go look at the VIX index, they're red too, but you can really tell how it's starting to turn to the upside and really show that the volatility is coming into the market. And generally, when the market goes down, the volatility starts to really go up.
Oh, yeah. All right. And then we have Kathy saying, how low do you think Moderna will go? So I'm kind of targeting that 350 support.
Yeah, me too. I think that could be a pretty good level for the long term. And they really hit off of 460 and went straight down to the downside. So that's a pretty good move. And a lot of people might sit here and think like, hey, 350, that's really far away from 416. But it only took us like 5 to 10 trading days to get from 350 all the way up to 460. So we could definitely see this stock come down pretty drastically. And I would definitely target 350. And I'll be honest, like if I was going to grab shares on this, I would want it even lower than that. Like I would want it below 300 or I mean, Mike, you might think I'm insane, but I would want it somewhere around 200. I just think that Moderna had too much of an explosive move. And I think that they got way too overextended on this ride.
Yeah, I feel you for sure. And then we have Sean saying, I'm in on snap puts for a day trade. Let's take a look. I mean, it's down 5%. The momentum's pretty strong to the downside. Doesn't look too bad.
Yeah, and it looks like Snapchat might be filling that gap in a way back down. And I could see them falling back to around $65. There is a big, huge resistance at 70 though. So really watch out for that. 70 is going to be the big level to look for as we fall the next day or two. But yeah, I mean, definitely have your eyes on 70. If we fall below that, I would really look at a quick day trade or something the second we fall below, or then I'd grab puts. But really watch out for 70 because we've definitely hit it in the past and went back up.
Good stuff. Let's take a look at the other comment. We have Keisha saying, nice, Sean. And then Vicky said, as I understand, transitory is between 6 to 12 months. So we will see. We'll definitely see. If we take a look at the SPY overall, it's very mixed movement today, Tom. I'm just looking at the opening price to where we are now. To me, it just looks like a lot of profit taking.
Yeah, it does to me too. And the market was just at all-time highs. So I don't really blame anyone for taking profits. And I think that that's more or less what's going on here. And there could be other factors, of course, like going into this, but I would generally say, speaking, that it's profit taking as well. And you can really tell that ever since the SPY consolidated at this like 452 to 454 resistance, I mean, we just sat there for a few days and started going right to the downside. And this comes right after all this Afghanistan news and as all these big catalysts start to hit the market. So it's just it's a very crazy time right now. And, we are getting close to a lot of these supports on the SPY. Like, for example, we're going to have that 440 support coming up and then some more after that. So there's definitely a lot of levels to look at on the way down. But I really think it's going to be pretty scary for the next couple of weeks, Mike. It's starting to really worry me. It's not I'm not getting worried like the world's about to end or anything, but I just, I know a lot of people are going to be holding their stocks, and I just know a lot of people's accounts are going to go down if the overall market falls.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then let's see, we have Stefan saying BCO swing trade for the next few weeks. Let's take a look. BCO, it's all right. I mean, it's like at like a pretty big support right now, right around, you could say like $72.50 to 73. It's just like, it's not a play that I like love, so I personally wouldn't do it, but then again, I don't really follow this stock too much.
Yeah, I don't either, but I'll tell you what, like as far as their like max daily chart goes, they were just like pretty much flat for the past year straight. And I mean, it's really hard to play this stock. I mean, you could maybe buy it off support, but personally, I don't think it's a good stock it's definitely not my favorite stock. I don't know what they do for the long term or anything. I don't know if this is like one of those money truck companies or something. I know I see Brink all over the place, but I mean, I personally, I just think it went flat. I don't know what kind of strategy they're talking about with this one, Mike, but it definitely seems like a crazy stock with the movement. I mean, it stayed between 70 and $80 for a whole year. Like that's kind of crazy.
For sure. So yeah, I'm looking into it a little bit right now. It says Brinks is an American private security and protection company headquartered in Richmond, Virginia. So it looks like home security, and it looks like they have a couple other aspects of their business.
I see some stuff. I always see their trucks, Mike. And have you ever seen like those trucks where like at a store they're bringing in a bunch of cash to the store?
Yeah, I'm seeing it right now. for
Okay,
sure.
yeah, I know that I see these guys do that sometimes, but
Yeah, I just looked into it and they definitely do. Yeah, the Brinks armored truck. So yeah, I mean it's just like it's not like great in my opinion. Like it can pop up. It's just like I just feel like with everything going on, like I just personally would never be playing this. But hey, if you like the company, always trust your gut. Then we have Corbin saying CPI data tomorrow could be a good time for a GLD play. How does the chart look? How's GLD looking, Tom?
GLD is actually trying to pop back up today. And I'm pretty surprised because generally we've been seeing GLD, especially like last week and stuff, it was kind of going down while the overall market was going down. But for some reason this morning, we're actually seeing gold go up while the S&P 500 is kind of going down. So very interesting. And if gold can act as another inverse to the market, kind of like it used to, I think gold could be great as the CPI data comes out. And if the inflation data suggests that inflation's rising, I would think that gold would go up with that news. But I will say though, in the past with the past inflation events and stuff, I've seen gold go down with the market. So just be really careful with it. Gold is definitely not acting the way it used to act. I will say 3 years ago, the gold market, I think, was totally different than the gold market today. And to me, I think the main thing that shook up that type of sector is number one, all the tech stocks, because every technology thing uses gold in it. So it gets used by, by a lot of tech companies and stuff. So of course that affects it. But then Bitcoin, lots of people have been talking about Bitcoin being a new way to kind of bet against the market and stuff. So I think that could be taking a lot of investors away from gold as well. But I would hope GLD could go up as the market falls. But I would say be really careful because the market dynamics with that have changed a little bit. And it's hard to say, Mike. Like, I know lots of people talk about Bitcoin being the new hedge against the market, but I would think gold would still be great for the long term. It's just in the short term, it might fall with the market a little bit. So just be a little careful.
Good stuff. Then we have Keisha saying Tesla headed to the big 700 support. Another retest, Tom. We're getting close to it. We're like $10 away. Do you have any other levels for us?
Man, that's terrible. If we break 700, we have a pretty safe move, in my opinion, back down to 680. I mean, it looks like the last time we broke 700, we went straight down to 680. So really watch out. I would think if we break it, it could definitely go down to there again. The resistance is right around 700. So watch out. It could, 697 might count as 700 for this. We've definitely seen it get close to 700, like at 697, like I said, and then move off of that. So give or take a few dollars around 700, but I could definitely see this as well. And if we break it, I'm going to be pretty worried about Tesla over the next few trading days, or especially whenever it breaks. But who knows? We might hit 700 and then start going right back up. That would be my hope. But just given what we're seeing in the market, I would think we might break it and go to the downside. And I don't know. I don't think that'll happen today. I would rather think it would happen tomorrow or the next day, especially since we're already down 3%.
All right, and we have AJ saying red today so far. There should be a pullback consolidation soon, right? Not necessarily. The market's definitely heating up. As we're seeing, it's slowly selling off. So there really doesn't have to be a pullback consolidation. Just keep that in mind. Looking at it right now, I'm just seeing more and more selling pressure, which to me just looks like more and more de-risking. And then on top of that, we're going to start to see a snowball effect, just like we saw on Friday at close. So, we saw a little bit of selling pressure come in, and then more came in, and then more came in, and the market was kind of free-falling for a couple minutes.
Man, I'll tell you, Friday's close was very volatile, and it was a crazy thing to watch. Like you can see on the S&P 500 chart here on my 15-minute chart. At the end of the day, I mean, man, those are like 4 or 5 just green solid red 15-minute candles there, straight to the downside. You can see then Microsoft at the end of the day, steep sell-off as well. Apple, same story, steep sell-off to end the day. And we might see that again, like you said. And like you said, it's a big snowball effect. Once it starts to go, like once one thing gives, it seems like lots of other stuff starts to give in the market, whether it be money makers taking profits, whether it be big bots or like AIs just continually rolling out of positions and just, getting into new ones, like NFTs just going super quick. And HFTs just really quickly, just getting in and out of trades. And, it really accelerates the market. And there's lots of factors that I don't think people, of course, most traders don't understand. And even Mike and I don't really understand all the ins and outs to a specific degree. Of course, we can sit here and say, of course, there's high frequency trading and stuff, but we don't know the specifics. We don't know exactly what those computers are doing or anything. And if anyone did, of course, they're billionaires right now. But the main thing is that with the market, when you see a sell-off, it all accelerates. And I like how Mike said the snowball effect happens. It really does. And yeah, there was a good example from Friday, but be really careful. I would say if the SPY falls below 445 today, that same snowball effect might come into play again.
Here we go. And then we have Iranical saying thoughts on VUG for the long term. So they're good. Vanguard Growth ETF. They've done great over, basically forever. Like you look at that max chart and, they're great. So I like them. If we do see a market dip, it could be a great opportunity to get into them. So I really like it. And then we have Mike saying, I've been owning Apple for a long time and averaging in for a while now. With Apple being really bullish, should I sell or buy when it dips? So, if it's a long-term hold, you're probably just better off holding it. Keep in mind that time in the market is a lot better than timing the market. So if it's a long-term play, probably just hold it. But if you're looking to time the market, I think it'd be a good time to sell it off or at least hedge it. Like you don't have to sell off the play. Like I don't know how many shares you have or anything like that. But Mike, what you can always do is you can always buy a put option. That could be a great strategy for you right now because let's just say I don't know how many shares you have, but let's say you have 100 shares. You can go out to let's say the December 17th expiration and maybe buy the 135 strike put. It only costs you $335, but then your max loss is, selling Apple at 135. Now, you don't have to pick that strike price. You don't have to pick that expiration. But the point is that you don't have to close the play. You can hedge yourself in other ways, whether it be buying puts, selling covered calls, selling some shares, or, maybe even getting some QQQ puts.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to say it, Mike. And he definitely doesn't have to sell his position. And especially with it being a stock like Apple, I mean, they're generally pretty safe. Like we can see even during the COVID crash, sure, Apple fell, but let's see it on a percentage basis. It was only 30%. I know lots of stocks that fell way more than that. And then Apple recovered up pretty quick off of that. So I would say for the next few years, I'm still bullish on Apple. I don't know about you, Mike, but I feel like they always innovate and they're always doing pretty well. So I think that they could end up being pretty good to hold. And I know that, Mike, you said to buy some puts, but he could also sell some covered calls up there, like at $160 or something like that too. And if the stock goes down, he just makes that premium.
Absolutely. That could be an awesome strategy. I think that's definitely a great idea, Tom. But do you have any last minute stocks or anything you're watching for the rest of the day?
Man, I'm really eyeing up a few of these plays, especially the SPY. I mean, I'm really going to be waiting for it to break below 445. I hate to be like the Grim Reaper for the market here, but it just really looks like the market's going to be falling over the next few days. And just with everything that's being suggested right now with the inflation and everything, that CPI data tomorrow, I think might really determine which way we go. We'll see which way it ends up moving whenever Powell talks. If we start to fly up, then who knows? Maybe the inflation was transitory and we'll see a good move up. But if we see the market fall below 445 and the inflation data suggests inflation's going up, then really look for the market to keep going down. I think that's going to be the main thing, is that data coming out tomorrow. But for the rest of the day today, I'm definitely eyeing up a few more stocks like AMD, looking for them to continue their sell-off, maybe down towards $100 a share. I know their sell-off's already pretty steep, so you'll have to wait a little bit. Of course, that movement at open was pretty drastic. Also going to be eyeing up NIO and Tesla. NIO, I really like possibly for shorting puts on for the next couple weeks. So if they can start to break support, that'll be the way I go with NIO. And then Tesla itself is getting back towards that $700 support. So we'll have to see what ends up going on, but lots of red coming into the market. Definitely be prepared. Now would definitely be a good time to grab a hedge if you guys don't have one yet, especially if you guys have long-term stocks in your portfolio. Hedges are always a good way to go right now. And if you have a $10,000 account, I'm not saying to go out and grab 5 grand worth of puts or anything. Just grab, a few $100s or something like that just to hedge your bets a little bit.
There we go. And then Mike said, thanks, guys. Awesome advice, as always. Well, great question, Mike. And then Vicky said, resistance and support on Square, please. So, Tom, what are you thinking with Square? They're having a nasty sell-off.
I was really liking Square up here as they were breaking out to all-time highs, and it was just a huge rejection. I was really hoping to test $300 and maybe get higher, but you're right, just got rejected. Bad move to the downside. I'll definitely be eyeing it up for a move to the downside still, even though we've had 4 or 5 red days in a row. Just not looking good right now. Intraday, it is coming back up a little, so maybe watch for a quick intraday pop back up. But I would say on a daily level, not looking good right now. And I like Square for the long term, so I think it could be making some good opportunities. But I would think Square might come down and retest support around 225 over the next couple of weeks.
Good stuff. So thank you guys so much for watching today's stream. The market's definitely heating up. We have Maine saying ATER running. Yeah, I mean, Maine, great call out there. It's just booming up there. So thank you guys so much for watching today's stream. The market's definitely heating up. And we hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day.